2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore, where we are going to be continuing our strange May theme of month. And because my name is Dave, I am very amazed that I made it here. Oh, wait a moment. I'm going to hand this over to Brandon, and he can tell you what the real title of this movie is.
Yeah, Dave here, he made a maze, which is actually a 2017 film by the director Bill Watterson, starring Stephen Sears and Bill Watterson. So this is and I'm just going to go ahead and give her name too, because as far as I'm concerned, it should be her as well. Mira Rohit Kumbani. So this particular movie is about a couple with a particularly bored husband who keeps trying out everything, and he decides he's going to make a maze. But the maze seems to be a little bit more complex than he thought it was. And everybody ends up fighting. So it turns out a simple party to celebrate his uniqueness turns into a fight for survival in a cardboard maze of death. So this is an interesting one, and I have an interesting story about it, but I will be talking about other people's first impressions first. So, Dave, was this your first time seeing Dave Made a Maze? And what inspired you to make the
maze? Unfortunately, this was from my evil twin's brain. Is nightmarish dream or whatever, because this is a very family-friendly movie. Well, anyways, this was my first time watching this movie. I did recognize one character who came from Chuck. I forget exactly what his name was in the movie, but he ended up going into the maze last and got caught watching some dancers and pretty much got cut up in the maze. But
you're talking about Leonard, yes?
Yeah, he was in a show that I was watching. I watched from beginning to end while it was on. Chuck, which was a very cool edition of like Office meets like James Bond type thing. But anyways, I thought it was entertaining. I mean, I thought it was creative. I mean, who would have thought of like confetti as being like blood, you know? Or what is that? Party spray, party string, as booby traps and stuff like that. So it was very unique. I don't know how the heck they did that with all the boxes. I mean, whoever did that had to have done like put in tons of hours just slapping the thing together and pasting it. I mean, it looked like a Willy Wonka version of an inside of a box, you know?
High five, Dave. High five.
Well, it was kind of like a Willy Wonka thing, because they had like all kinds of you know, I mean, they had a door that opened and it went smaller and smaller. I mean, Willy Wonka had that kind of a room. So, but in any case, I enjoyed the story and enjoyed the special effects, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later on. And I want to own this. I don't have it.
It is available through Arrow Video. They did do a release, but only the UK. In the UK, so You have to have a region-free player to play a physical copy of Dave Made a Maze. So,
Okay.
Jake, was this your first time with Dave Made a Maze?
Yes, this was. It wasn't the first time I've heard of it because I know you've mentioned this a few times since you saw it. It definitely seemed, from what I knew incidentally, which was very little, like it'd be right up your alley. And now that I've seen it, I will say yes, this definitely feels like a Brandon film. Um, and and I did enjoy it too. I will say there are some issues. Some of the characters were under or overperformed and just kind of annoyed me in some ways. But I really liked the one that plays Allie. I thought she did a great job. Mirohi Kumbani. I think she did a great job. James Urbaniak, I always like seeing him. He's cool. He plays a horrible documentarian. Like I said, it's kind of fitting because I usually think of him and I think Rusty Venture, and like I said, he's just as incompetent a documentarian as the mad scientist that he plays. But and as we were talking before we went on, there is a a really fun anime that's fallen by the wayside called Pony Pony Dash, with a character who is the class rep for reasons that defy logic. There is no logic to her being a class rep, but Ichijo-san has, at some point in the series, introduces a concept that Brandon shared with us in game. I think I missed that session, but I heard about it. I heard the tales of the Ichijo Festival. And I never knew how much I would have enjoyed a live-action Ichijo Festival movie. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, I've seen it now. It was kind of fun. Very creative. It's a very creative concept. Like I said, it might have been possible to do it with a little more flair, but it definitely exceeded my expectations. I will say that. And it definitely is a relatively odd movie. I will give it that.
Yes, actually, not the first time I used the cardboard dungeon. Matter of fact, the first time I used the cardboard dungeon was in One-Eyed Jacks, one of the original games I ran.
Right.
But how about you, Tammy? Was this the first time you have seen Dave make a maze, or has Dave made other mazes before?
Well,
I did sing
around our
a maze.
house.
The first night I met her, I sang Lone Star Amazed.
But yes, the actual movie, yes, it's the first time I saw it. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I have to agree with David that I thought, you know, how they did the actual maze was really cool, and it definitely took a lot of imagination and a lot. I think it took a lot of hard work to create what they created, and I give them a lot of credit for that because they didn't just go and we'll go on the computer and create this and do this, and you know what I mean. They actually had to work hard, I think, to actually make this and use their imagination. And I think that's what makes the movie fun, and what makes it interesting is that you see this in it. So I thought it was really neat. I thought it was enjoyable, and I you know, um, it wasn't what I expected, but it was better than what I expected because of that.
All right. Well, this is I admit I came upon this when I was up with Kim one night. We would look on Prime because she prefers streaming to physical media watching. So we're just going through Prime and looking through stuff, and I saw this. I was like, "This looks interesting," because it's Jake, as Jake actually can attest, this this does hit me right down the line as far as a movie that appeals to me. I didn't know exactly what to expect when I walked into it, but when I did, I was quite amazed and amazed. Um, but just seeing the practical effects and the imagination that went forth into it, it definitely appealed to me. I was surprised. It kind of gave me almost Labyrinth vibes when it went through. And I do love Labyrinth. And I have, I know, like as a child, I've had at least blanket forts when I was a kid, so I can understand that. I mean, who hasn't like had like some sort of pillow fort or blanket tent or something they did?
And I used to have a Christopher Columbus book of maps, and we used to like put chairs together and blankets and stuff, and imagine we were in like totally different worlds.
So, you know, a lot of interesting things about this. Of course, this takes that concept and makes it slightly more sinister, as this is kind of a horror comedy in a lot of ways. But we'll just dive into it. So Dave is a kind of that guy who's never really found himself. And he's been lucky enough to find a partner that is willing to support his endeavors as you. I mean, at first it kind of pushes forward to where he's being interviewed about what's going on and how he didn't intend people to die and so on. And you're like, what? And then it goes into the credits where it shows him just trying all these various endeavors, music, painting.
Great credit sequence, by the way. That was really
all
cool.
Animated, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
And and this is all turns out to be while she's on the same trip, trying to basically find himself. He never can seem to find a project that he wants to finish. But then he sees an ant farm and gets inspired, which leads his, I guess, was it wife, significant other, girlfriend? What was the relationship? I can't remember. Did it even say whether they were like married or like just?
I got the impression. I got the impression it was a girlfriend. They are living together, so there is that. But yeah.
And of course, you find out that he's not just living off of her; he's living off of his parents as well. So, you know, definitely a man who needs to find himself. So, I guess let's start off with what your thoughts are about Dave as a character and person. What do y'all think of him?
Well, it's kind of a background character, sort of. Even though, you know, technically they like meet up with him eventually. He's kind of like a voice in the background, and you're hearing him that he's stuck and that he doesn't want to, you know, stop building what he's building. And he's trying to warn everyone to just stay the fuck out. And no one listens to him, of course. But that's I mean, he started this thing. He wants to finish it. It's not ready. It's dangerous. That's the type of character he is. And you know, I'm getting from him that he's tough to deal with as a partner. Okay, because she is already like, well, let's just break this thing down. And he's like, no, wait, what are you doing? Stop doing that, type of thing. So, but he's kind of a background character at first, at least to me. Because you don't really see him right away. The only thing you see of him is the interview, which we don't know anything about that until later, and that's that.
Anyone else on Dave?
He's definitely more than a little self-focused. He does genuinely want to get everyone out in one piece, but he also resists almost till the end the idea of destroying the maze. He keeps saying, let's finish it. Partly because he feels like he's closer to finishing this than pretty much anything he's ever done. He's proud of it. He has reason to regret it, but he is proud of it. But overall, yeah, he's a little hard to get fully behind because of that conflict. But yeah, I feel like you can at least see where he's coming from.
I don't think he fully cared about the deaths of the people that came into the maze. He was like,
he did warn them.
Yeah, and in fairness,
he warned them, but he didn't really mourn them.
Yeah, he can't take too much responsibility because, one, he straight told his friend, don't tell anyone else. He kept telling people, don't come into the maze. He kept saying all this stuff and no one listened to him. Now, honestly, from what we know of Dave, his friends had every reason to be skeptical. But for all they know, he was just sitting under some boxes and trying to be all cryptic. But I guess when they walked in and saw that he wasn't, they probably should have turned and walked right back out. So, again, it wasn't for lack of trust, but and in fairness, a couple of the people that died were completely insufferable, and we don't miss them. So,
we'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, what about Dave's other half, Annie?
Well, I was gonna say, I kind of felt bad for Dave because it seemed like everything you saw him try in his life didn't work, and it didn't work, and it didn't work, and this was kind of like, in a way, this was like his last thing, his last little stitch of hope that he tried this and he finished or he's trying to finish this. He's trying to do something, and as far as the people that died in it, I think he felt bad, but like Jake said, he gave everybody all these warnings, and nobody listened to him. And the whole thing is, nobody from the get-go, nobody was taking him seriously. I think the first person that actually took him seriously was the girlfriend, because she made up her mind she was going to go in there and help him. And I think because she finally took him seriously, and she actually finally cared about him enough that she was going to go against all his warnings and come in there and help him. All these other people went in there. I don't think they really cared. They just were being nosy and being or curious or whatever. I don't think any of them actually went in there because they really cared about him. So in a way, it's their fault that they ended up dead, is the way I look at it. She really cared about him and went in there. I was the only one I think really cared about him and went in there to help him. And that's what I think. I think he really needs somebody to actually believe in him. Was the whole thing.
And
So,
she was good at backing his play most of the time. Anyone else on Annie?
I think Annie herself, she at, at first I think she thought that whatever he was doing was ludicrous. She seemed like she was like the breadwinner.
Oh,
And she's the one that actually went and decided to go and rescue him, because once she finally realized he hadn't eaten in a couple of days and all that jazz, she decided to go in after. And I think even she was amazed at Dave's maze once she got in it. Even and she even took charge a little bit. So, she actually kind of redeemed herself in my eyes by taking charge a little bit of the situation. So,
I think at first she was annoyed with him, which we all know how annoying Dave's can be. But I think she saw what was she saw how much he really needed her, I think, and that's when she made up her mind to go in there and help him. Besides, like David just said about not, she knew he hadn't eaten, but I think it was more than that. I think she sensed how much he really needed her, and then she was there for him. So she was a lot stronger than she was more of a person than she seemed at first.
Right.
So,
And also, she was probably the only one. I'm sure we'll get to our documentarian here shortly. She was one of the only ones who wasn't taking his shit. Like everyone else was doing what they could to look good on camera, and she's like, "The fuck are you doing? We're here to save Dave." So she definitely had her eyes on the prize, you might say, a lot better than any of the others did. Yeah. I thought overall I liked her as a character, and I thought it was one of the better performances in the movie. So yeah, overall, yeah, good things.
All right. Well, so we'll go forward a little bit in the story. So Dave, she gets home and she sees this kind of smallish cardboard box fort built in the center of the living room, and it's kind of this. It's a pretty complex cardboard fort because it's got various boxes taped together, and there's like steam coming out of different parts of it. It's just in general a lot more, and it's got a really nice entrance sign with a blanket in front of it. And Dave was just letting her know, I was like, yeah, I'm stuck here. I'm lost. I can't come out. She tries to shake the box a little bit. He's like, no, don't do that. Whatever you did, don't do that. To the point where she is concerned about him. With all, in all fairness, one should be when it comes to mazes and such. But so they call his friend Gordon in, which I believe Gordon is his best friend. And actually, if you notice that Gordon's shirt has a picture of a drawing of the guy, basically of Gordon with a like baseball bat and like a medieval weapon. He has a picture basically of himself on his t-shirt. But what did y'all think of the best friend Gordon? He's kind of you can tell that he and Dave have known each other for a while, But what do you think of Gordon?
He's a little bit of a jerk. He does seem to care about his friend, but he also doesn't care near as much as the girlfriend does. He kind of, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of trapped in the middle between the people who are just there for adventure and the girlfriend who's actually trying to help. But he kind of ping pongs back and forth between the two.
You can tell that he has been that he and Dave have been roped into the same schemes together in the past. Like they showed that one time of him and Dave acting in a movie out for one of our other our would-be director in the past. So definitely they seem to have been roped together into these types of crazy schemes in the past. Well, essentially, he says, well, can I call Leonard and get him in here? And he's like, okay, Leonard, that's fine, but nobody else. So, of course, he invites the entire neighborhood. So I'm going to run through a couple of characters here, but I'm not really going to touch on a lot of them, except for just a few here, because some of them really don't have any screen time. For instance, there is the Flemish tourists who you see basically at the beginning, and they just look like they came off the street, and you see them at the end like picnicking in the maze. Got the hobo who was invited in there because it's like, well, you were supposed to be a cardboard expert, and it's like, no, I said I knew cardboard. Which I thought was hilarious. And you had the couple, like the really kind of together couple who answered at the same time and were really close, who kind of sort of had a presence, but kind of sort of died quickly. And then you had the more annoying Bren, who also, she plays a little bit more of a role, but as another one, and she's more of an annoying character. And then, of course, our documentary crew.
Bren was one of the couple. You're thinking Jane, right?
Jane. Okay, it's Jane.
Yeah, she was annoying. Oh my God.
High five! But and then, of course, finally Harry and his crew. Really, Leonard and Harry and his crew are the only two that have any extra stuff. And Leonard, he comes on as more of one of the close friend group, but really doesn't do much. I feel like almost he feels to me as more of a tacked on character. But what do y'all think of Leonard?
Yeah, no, I didn't think much of him as a character. I mean, he was there
because he follows afterwards, and then he kind of follows afterwards, if I remember correctly. And then
he pieced out saying, "I got to work tomorrow. I don't care about all this. I got to work." But then I guess somewhere, for some reason, he changes his mind. He's like, maybe being in a movie, that might be worth doing. So he comes back talking about what he wants to tell the what's his name, Harry, and ends up going into the maze on his own. And
like I say, he kind of just rehashes a lot of the rooms that they were in before, kind of following him until his untimely death later. Oh, by the way, spoilers. But did any of y'all think Leonard was much more of a character than what we were thinking?
Yeah, I think he was more of a character. He played a comical relief character on Chuck too, so it kind of played into what kind of characters he normally plays into, anyways. A bumbling fool that just gets himself in trouble.
Well, let's go to the last group of characters. I don't think we need to cover the Minotaur because it's a Minotaur. With basically Harry, his boom operator, and his cameraman. What do y'all think of this trio of peoples?
They gave the cameraman sunflower seeds. They should have given him an apple. he was a total asshole. The boom operator seemed like his heart was more in the right place. And then, like I said, Harry, again, he kind of came off to me as a hardcore propagandist masquerading as a documentarian, because he kept coming up to people and telling them how he wanted them to appear on camera, what he wanted them to say, and then he would kind of pause and go, but say it in your own words, and it's like, and if they were trying to do something spontaneous or original, he would complain that it just wasn't that impressive. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, if he was actually there to document anything, he failed utterly. It was more like he was using this as an opportunity to direct a film, basically. It was interesting, but of course, like I said, I always enjoy seeing James Urbaniak. He almost always plays assholes and shysters, and he's good for the role.
Yeah. Well,
Harry was the guy they kept trying to interview, right?
Yes.
He was annoying. He just, because it's like he wasn't getting the seriousness of what was going on. It seemed like, he at the most inopportune times he's trying to question people, and it was just like, dude, you're trying to run away from the Minotaur. Don't question people now. That chick just got her head cut off. No, don't talk to people now. So, the short guy, he was the one running the boom
operator. Yeah.
Yeah. He, I think, actually gave a crap about what was going on and was trying to be helpful, because there was instances where, I don't want to get too far into the movie, where he actually put the stuff down and went to go help and went to go do this or whatever. So I think he was actually trying to be helpful.
Well, then maybe he actually knew how to be a boom operator, because basically a boom operator, he's kind of a gopher. Like your pizza guy.
But I think he actually, gave a crap about what was going on,
True.
So,
well, essentially, out of all of this, I mean, our main characters for this story, the characters we spend most time with, are Dave, Annie, Gordon, and Harry and the crew. So, sadly, like them or not, we got to get used to them. Everybody else, yeah. But
everybody else is food for the fodder. And did anyone else get Hidden Temple vibe as well?
Well, you do have Olmec right there in our picture.
He kind of reminded me of the big head in the Legends of the Hidden Temple.
But essentially, Gordon apparently uses this whole thing, which of course Dave is like, because it looks like, basically, if you were crawling around on your hands and knees at the maze from what it looks like on the outside, there'd be no way you couldn't figure out how to get out of there. But Dave insists it's bigger on the inside. And So they apparently use this as an excuse to have a little bit of a party in the room around Dave, who's in the maze. And then Annie finds out that Dave has not eaten in 3 days. And he's like, well, I've got an idea. Just like drop some sandwiches like all throughout, like from without the maze into the maze, and maybe I'll run across a couple. Because he was pretty explicit to say, yeah, I built booby traps in the maze. It's very dangerous. They're like, why'd you build booby traps? Well, I thought it would be fun. So they're all kind of just there. Linda, is it Linda? Was that right? No, Jane.
So there's Bryn and that artistic-looking dude with the funny art hat.
So Jane was like, ooh, I want to get in. I want to go in. And everybody else is like, no. Until Annie decides, you know what, I need to launch a rescue. I don't care what he says. So she actually packs a bag, which surprised me. I was like, wow, that shows there is a little bit of support for Dave. It's like that maybe what he's saying is true. And everybody else is so excited about going in as like this is going to be a great thing, except for Leonard, who leaves for work, but comes back later, as Jake says. And they all kind of enter the maze, and they realize that the maze is indeed bigger on the inside than on the outside.
Yeah.
And at first, it really is more of a bit of wonder as they kind of go around. They just see various rooms. Like I really like the piano room. But there's little aspects of things that Dave has tried to do, like the origami room, some of the paintings, and again, the music from the piano, where if you go into the black keys, it actually makes a sound.
Right. One fun thing, what is shortly after they enter, there's like one of those kind of string curtain things, but instead of beads, it's playing cards. And I didn't really notice this in the movie, but according to IMDb, it's all 6s and 7s. And apparently to be in 6s and 7s is to be in a state of confusion. So that seems appropriate. Yeah.
But it was a wondrous maze there at the time. And the origami room was the first time that you had some sign of trouble, where you had this mouth that would spit out various origami birds that were flying around the room. And one of the origami birds attacks the boom operator, who fights it off. What did y'all think of it? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, well, if you looked at the stuff that was in the room, it was all various wrapping paper and things of that nature. I thought the idea of it was cool. I mean, you had the open and closing mouth that kind of looked like the Legend of the Hidden Temple dude, just a little bit. And he kept spitting out stuff. I mean, one of the things that one of them picked up was like a plaster of Paris penis. You know,
like various paper art.
Yes, and I do like how how they were able to make the origami creatures come alive. You know.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool in that way. But how about the rest of y'all? What do y'all think of just the initial? What was y'all's initial? What was it? Impression of the maze once you all got to watch them go inside it like this.
I thought it was like, wow, when the first time you see him in the maze and he's sitting there, and there's all this room around him, all this space. It's like, okay, this maze really is not what it seems on the outside. If he can have this much space around him, you know?
Well, and to me, To me, it's kind of like a judge a book by its cover. Not everything is as it seems, you know.
And then when they get in there, like you said, like that room with all the stuff, they're walking through it, they're getting deeper and deeper, and then that mouth is just spitting all this. It was just like, wow, it was neat. I mean, like I said at the beginning, when my first impressions, I think I really, really like the imagination that the people had that made this. They, I think they had great imagination in doing this. They didn't use some computer to make this effect or make that effect. They used their imagination, and they made things. They actually made things, and you know, I just it gave it a whole different feel than other movies that have you know the normal props that you're used to seeing, or the computer generated this or that. These people use their imagination. They made this stuff. It just I thought it was great.
It
And I do
boggles the mind how much creativity went into the look of the maze.
and I did
Yeah.
watch I did watch all the behind the scenes materials that came with the Arrow video. So I know a bit about how they got it all done, but I'll save that for like when we get to the production. But yeah, so yeah, that's the thing, is that the impressions of this, and when I first watched this, I was kind of amazed
It's
by this.
keep saying that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really did impress me, and I didn't know what I was getting into because I didn't watch a trailer or anything. I was just like, this looks interesting. Guy creates a cardboard maze bigger than it seems. Okay, well, this sounds interesting. All right, I'll take a look. And because it originally billed it as a comedy, romance, horror, and I was trying to figure out what the horror aspect was, because so far at this point, the only thing that's happened that's horror-wise is that one of the origami swans attacked, but didn't do any damage really. It's kind of like beat them back with the boom, and they end up going through the mouth to get out. It's not until we see, what is her name? Until we see Jane come in, and she ends up stepping on this trap, and then it goes down. You see this intricate, all these intricate workings underneath the maze. I'm thinking, it's like, where did he get? How did he dig that deep? He'd be in the other apartments by now. And it cuts her head off, but instead of blood, it's red confetti that bursts out. And I don't know about you all, but I was not expecting that.
No, I wasn't expecting that either.
Neither was they.
David looked at me and I looked at him and we're like, okay, that's different.
But yeah, that was like, I like how they used that, because it was able to show there was only one. There was one time where you saw real blood, and that was where Gordon cut himself on some of the cardboard, and you notice the blood seeped into the maze. And that was creepy.
Making it seem like it was alive.
But that was the only time you saw real blood in this movie. The rest of it really was just like this weird cardboard version of gore.
So this was definitely a Jake safe movie.
I'll admit, Jake, if this bothered you, then I would be wondering.
Yeah, I would be too.
I don't think this is too much gore for you.
Well, it is worrisome, but not in the same way. Yeah.
Although I think we've somewhat desensitized you a little bit, Jake.
Yes. I have definitely watched things recently that I would never have watched when I first joined the group.
But
I'm with you on that, Jake. I've watched a lot of things that I never would have watched.
This is the first exposure to cardboard gore.
Yeah, well, we did watch Meet the Feebles, so we've seen puppet gore before.
Yes.
So,
I am actually looking forward to the 4K release of that that's supposed to come out.
right.
But so in their running, they do finally run into Dave, who at first makes it look like he understands what's going on until he runs into a dead end. And then you realize that he's just as basically confused as the rest of them. He has more of an idea because he's the one who built the maze, but it seems that the maze has taken on a life of its own, and now they've got to figure out how to get out of the maze. They even make their way out of the entrance, but then they realize when they get out of the entrance that the maze is already built up beyond the entrance, and it's hard to find an exit to it. And this is also where they are, and of course, they also find the couple where the male half of the couple also gets killed in one of the traps. And the female introduces how dangerous the Minotaur is because the Minotaur takes her and runs off with her. They don't really last very long. And as I said, we don't see the foreign ones at all after this. They just kind of disappear until the end of the movie. And I want to say this is also when Leonard comes into the maze, but for the most part, we just see Leonard following them. But what do y'all think of this concept of the more dangerous ideas of the maze and the Minotaur?
I think that the Minotaur is part of what is the danger of the place. I mean, yes, they have all these like Indiana Jones like booby traps, but I feel like the booby traps are only for those who are not aware of them, which is most of the rest of the party that goes in. You know.
True.
And those who are aware of the booby traps, they're not as dangerous to them once they know that they're aware to keep a lookout for them. You know.
I do like the one booby trap, that the male part of the couple, every time somebody got near that string, you heard that noise, and then the string would like loosen up, and then they go by it again, and it would tighten up, and it would make that noise.
The string got excited every time it got near it.
Yeah, that was actually kind of funny.
Just the fact that they could think of that. I mean, you've never ever seen that in any booby trap. I mean, you wouldn't have ever seen that in a MacGyver episode. That's for sure.
Well, that's kind of reminds me of Labyrinth in a way, because that's the kind of thing that you'd see in Labyrinth, is that the trap is disappointed that they haven't come close to tripping it, and it was just like. So they go through a bunch of a chase, even a part where they become paper bag puppets for a brief time, including the Minotaur. But the Minotaur is able to break the fourth wall because you can see that the Minotaur is just a hand under a paper bag puppet, whereas the rest of them are just paper bag puppets. As they run off and dive through. I mean, you've got a perspective room and another room that is very interesting because there is a particular body part that was built into the maze. Kim actually snorted at this one. And
because it was a clitoris.
And you find out that by David said basically it's a trap. And it shows that obviously he had been a little bit curious by the thing himself, because it turned whatever entered it into cardboard. So
I actually sort of wonder if they were referencing Star Wars in there by repeating, "It's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap," to the rest of the people. Of course, there's that Star Wars line, "It's a trap," before the Empire comes.
I actually have that one.
Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47. It's a trap.
There you go.
You should listen to the man.
So essentially, though, I mean, yeah, you find out that whatever goes into it becomes cardboard itself. And you can tell because his hand, which he'd been wearing a glove over, is actually now made of cardboard. Which he oddly, I had thought when in my original watch that he was cured of it when he left the maze, but no. His hand was apparently permanently cardboard. That would make for awkward hand washing.
Nah,
So
yes, it would.
But
Of course, then again, I wonder what Jax would think from Mortal Kombat. Hey, would I be able to have a cardboard fist?
I don't know if y'all actually got this, but there's a part later on where they're going in and they're hanging out around the original entrance, and the boom operator comes back in, and he just implies like, "Yeah, well, I thought I could slip in, and it just didn't seem like it was there." And it's like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "I'd rather not talk about it." And he moves on. And I'm thinking to myself, what was he doing?
Yeah. There are some thoughts.
And there's a reason why you can't tell that there's any cardboard on him. But really and truly, most of the maze at this point is them trying to avoid the Minotaur, and Dave trying to come to terms with what he can do with the maze. It turns out that the Minotaur's purpose is to one, escape the maze, and two, to protect the maze. And the reason why the Minotaur was summoned originally is because Annie took out the paper cutter when trying to find Dave and cut through one of the walls, trying to cut her way out. And essentially, other than having Leonard follow, and there were various things, like there was a film room, there was, like I say, a perspective room, there were various different rooms there.
There was a maze within a maze.
Right.
But eventually they come into a room where there is a cardboard version of Jane, kind of tied up.
I'm pretty sure that was Bryn. I feel
Bryn.
like they called her Bryn.
Yeah, they called her Bryn.
And she's like, "High five!"
Yeah.
So, and they're kind of like a little weirded out by this.
Yeah.
And they don't really trust her. So while Dave and Annie are trying to find the center of the maze, because they decide, okay, well, you know what? In order to actually destroy the maze, we have to complete the maze.
At the very least, they have to build a heart for it and
A chrysalis.
The chrysalis, yes.
And they are there to distract Bren, who they feel like has some association with the Minotaur. And so they do an interview with her, which nobody wants to go give her a high five.
I wonder
And yet they question her about the high five and what its purpose is and all that jazz, just to kind of distract her. And then, of course, she goes into a demonic-like voice.
Yeah. She basically she basically becomes a mouthpiece for, if not the Minotaur, then whatever force is animating everything.
You later discover that really she's a puppet that is manipulated by the hand of the Minotaur, which is gigantic here, and pulls the cameraman to his death, but they preserve the tapes. But Dave and Annie do create the chrysalis together as they enter into the heart of the maze. And it's a pretty cool scene with that thing coming out with the kind of like King of Hearts or whatever, like stabbing down, and the Minotaur being underneath it with sort of a stop motion thing.
Yeah.
And
but there's also a dream sequence a little bit before that, which is kind of unique too.
Of them like having dinner together.
They were having dinner together, and I think it was basically having the different conversations that they had while they were outside dealing with their daily lives.
It basically was scenes of a daily life, and they were basically going through the same lines of dialogue, but they were switching the lines, and the overall appearance was changing. Like they would remove their outfit and put on a new one, and the outfits got more and more cardboardy as they went along, or at least that's in
there was a cardboard tux and a cardboard bridal uniform. So
right.
The whole room was made of cardboard at the end. It got creepy at the end. I think I shared a picture of that scene when I was watching it, and in general, it was definitely all creepy. They ended up going in and there we go. They ended up basically finishing the chrysalis, and apparently he had been carrying around a katana with him, which she then used to destroy the chrysalis and cut her way out.
Well, cut her way to the center.
Oh, sorry. She cut her way to the center. They placed the chrysalis. And then after it did this, the cameraman and them catch up oddly quickly. And that's when she ends up.
Well, I'm pretty sure, wasn't this after the cameraman's ignominious death? Like it was just Harry and the boom operator.
Yeah, Harry and the boom guy, yeah. And that was pretty interesting. So, because during that time, I believe it was Gordon that was distracting the Minotaur by saying, "Yeah, I'm going outside right now."
Right.
Wow. Who would put the exit like really fucking close to here? Come follow me.
And of course, Leonard's finally being killed by one of those traps as the maze comes tumbling down. And as it's coming tumbling down, we finally see our foreign couple again. I figured the hobo must have just eaten and left because he didn't seem any interested in going into the maze. He was going through the refrigerator.
Right.
But
did the homeless? I mean, not the homeless. Did the tourist couple get out? I didn't see them.
They didn't get out.
No,
they just
okay.
They must have died with the maze, but apparently they were having a nice picnic when we left.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, they were having a French moment there.
So the people who did get out, of course, we have Dave, we had Annie, we had Gordon, and we had Larry and the boom operator. And they all work together to clean up the cardboard and throw it out, which we finally find out afterwards that the Minotaur also escapes and is now free to wander the city.
You gotta set up a sequel.
And I would like to think that Dave actually had some growth. I guess there was a little because he did finally accomplish something in his life and was able to let it go once he did accomplish it. But really and truly, did he have a lot of growth in this?
Well, I mean, being able to let go was a big step for him.
I wonder what he would have, what his excuse would have been for the missing people.
I see nothing.
Well, if anything, they've got the tapes, so
Yeah,
for what happened.
yeah. So really, Harry didn't realize it, but he was making a snuff film, probably.
But that was Dave Made a Maze. Did any of y'all have anything that y'all wanted to talk about as far as the plot was concerned before we look into production?
I think we've mostly covered it for plot, maybe.
All right. Well, let's talk production. So this is a heavily practical effects movie.
Right.
There are a couple of CG effects, and there's some stop motion, but for the most part, it is practical. They had the first thing that they did is they went to an art exhibit, which was all cardboard, and they did manage to get all the cardboard from that. And they said, it looks like we got enough. No, they didn't have enough. So they basically did a lot of dumpster diving to get all the cardboard they needed. They went through a lot of cardboard.
They said on IMDb that they managed to find a company willing to let them dumpster dive.
Yes.
And then when they were done with the movie, they gave it back to them to recycle. So
they went through a lot of cardboard. And keep in mind, all this was cardboard that was already used. So they weren't so environmentally, this is as responsible as a movie about a maze filled with cardboard could be. But to me, that's just insane that they use so much
I wonder how many hours it was spent putting this thing together.
Well, and they also said on the IMDb page, and Brandon, I don't know if you saw this in your info, but something like they only had enough room to do about 2 rooms at a time. Yeah. So while they were filming one scene, someone else was building the next set, and they were constantly shifting them out. And I think they said each room was up for around 4 hours.
Because they had to film everything in each room that happened in each room because they didn't have a lot of sound stages. I got to watch in fast motion as they were setting up one room while they were acting in another. It was kind of a cool experience to watch. I mean, I admit, with all the work, if you have to tear it down, you better get everything done. You got to get it.
Right, no reshoots on this bitch.
But I will say the practical effects in this movie are probably the most impressive part about the movie. The one that we're looking at even is probably one of the more impressive effects. That one definitely.
Yeah, I would say as well. And they're related, but I would say the set design, the art decoration design of the movie,
sound coordination,
the effects is how they get there, but it had a very creative design and aesthetic to begin with.
I mean, the door behind them was shutting, and you could actually hear the sound of a metal door closing in order to synchronize the sound with the exact moment. That was cool.
Well, even the blood and gore effects, if you think about it.
The confetti?
Yeah, for what they were. The confetti and silly string, essentially. But, yeah.
What's the Punnett Square of things, being able to shoot the confetti out at the exact moment that you want it and look like a blood squirt?
Wasn't it right after Jane was killed? Didn't the girlfriend say, did he use my good yarn?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny.
So, those were fun effects for this. Making the cardboard, the makeup, around the hand, the cardboard hand, the entire cardboard version of Bren, those were pretty cool makeup effects.
Indeed.
I thought the production was just awesome, like you guys have been saying, and I said earlier too about it. Just took, I think it took a lot of imagination. And I think it took a lot of hard work for them to set all this up and to do all this, and they had to really, I think, work together to make this happen and to make all these sets and to think about all the different things and like the hallway with the keys from the keyboard,
Yeah.
and then they could go
Right.
into there. That was that was like really neat too, and it was just
Right.
I just I give them a lot of credit because it's a lot of the older movies. Why I like older movies is people had to use their imagination to make things happen on them. They
Mhm.
couldn't just go punch something up on a computer, And
I mean,
I give them a lot of credit on this. Is they made all this,
even to the
So-
down to the details of the room with the cups and the art pieces, and they were showing that some of those prop pieces were closer rather than far away, like they looked. That tiny little tea table was actually much closer than you actually thought, and one of those teacups was bigger and in the background. So
that was a neat effect. That room, it really was.
Yeah, it was like the whole room was an optical illusion. That was really kind of fun. And I want to say something else from a production perspective. We talked before about the sourcing of the cardboard. Because it was basically all recycled and mostly dumpster diving, and then they gave it back to the company to recycle. Supposedly, they spent nothing on cardboard for the movie. So, from a production cost perspective, they were really creative there too.
Like I say, as far as movies about that require lots of cardboard and paper, I'd say it would be fairly environmentally friendly as far as their footprint is concerned.
It's just a shame they didn't make any
Evan
room for
Jacobs did one with a cardboard box, didn't he?
What's that?
We know Evan Jacobs did something with a cardboard box
Right.
at one time. Did
It is just a shame that they didn't make any room for an Ahibe orange box.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has been a proven fact that cardboard boxes can be used for time travel.
Indeed.
Which goes into the Evan Jacobs reference you were talking about, Dave. Which he needs to make the third film in that trilogy so that can be done. But yes, well, that was practical effects. How about music? I thought that there was some decent sound design in this, but again, nothing I'm going to be like wanting to buy the soundtrack for. But what are y'all thoughts?
There was an intro music that I was curious about that was playing during the credits. That kind of sounded like a punkish type rock.
And there was animation at the beginning and end of the movie. I forgot to say that.
Yeah.
But
there was a song called Pinball and one called Diversion.
Yeah.
And then the music itself was done by the Mondo brothers, I believe. Overall, I liked the music. I thought it fit the quirky tone of the movie. I think I can agree. I probably wouldn't rush out to get the soundtrack, but I definitely thought it fit the movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that was Dave Made a Maze.
Well, we haven't done favorites yet.
Oh, well, yeah.
Favorite scenes or favorite characters.
So let's go with your favorite scene in the movie, and let's see. As far as maze movies go, because we have a couple of these, like Labyrinth, I consider Mirror Mask kind of a maze or labyrinthine movie. What's your
There's
favorite
an old
movie with a maze
that has to
or labyrinth in it? Well, let's go for the end and go through. So Tammy, what was your favorite scene, and what's your favorite movie with a labyrinth or maze involved?
Well, my favorite movie with a labyrinth or maze will always be Labyrinth. So it will. That's been my favorite since the first time I saw it. So, and kudos to Dad, who's no longer with us, but he's the one that played it for me. But favorite scene. I like the one that's up on the screen right now.
Mm.
I like the whole the mouth and the head is spitting all this stuff out, and then all this stuff is there. They're fighting all this stuff in there, and then they're being attacked by the I like that scene. I thought that was really really cool. And favorite character, I'd have to say Annie is my favorite because she goes from, I think, being annoyed and being disappointed with him when she first comes into the apartment and sees what he's done, and she's talking to him through it, and seems like she's getting more and more bothered, and then till she realizes he hasn't eaten, and then she starts to get concerned, and she continues talking, and her whole thing changes. Now she's no longer annoyed or whatever with him like she was. She's concerned, and she wants to go rescue him, and she wants to help him, and like we said earlier, she kind of like takes charge of the whole situation. So I really like her.
All right, Jacob.
Well, I have to agree. Annie is easily my favorite character. Of course, it's a low bar, to be honest, but I do like her. I thought she did show a little more growth than some of the others. She was mostly likable. She was a little overly dismissive of Dave at first, but as we've already said, he probably deserved some of that. But yeah, and at the end of the day, she's the one that keeping everyone on track and trying to keep, get things brought to as safe a conclusion as possible. As far as scenes go, it's kind of a hard call, but I would almost say the scene where Annie and Dave complete the chrysalis and turn it on. And they're all just kind of, I was a little frustrated with how long are y'all just going to sit here and watch that? But on the other hand, it was impressive, and I could see why, they were kind of impressive. And if I had to do a second, it might be the Puella Meja Madoka Magica moment. I know Brandon will get the reference, maybe Dave will. Where we have the character suddenly beheaded in front of everyone and nobody saw it coming. I'm like, that was kind of fun. The fact that it spurted out yarn instead of blood was kind of crazy. And she was insufferable. So I was just waiting for her to snuff it anyway. So, God, she was insufferable. I kind of enjoyed that. As far as maze movies, I don't know. I'm hard pressed to really think of that many maze movies that I've seen. I mean, Labyrinth is an obvious one, but it's not as ingrained in my brain as it is for a lot of people. I've said before, and I'll say again, one of my only criticisms of the movie, The Princess Bride, versus the book is they took out the Zoo of Death. That would have been a phenomenal labyrinth section, but they took it out of the movie. but I'm almost tempted to say this could be the top maze movie that I've seen. Could very well be.
Well, Dave.
One movie we didn't mention with a maze is The Shining.
Yep.
Yes, but the less said about that, the better. That was another one where the book did it so much better than the movie did.
No
Although
maze scene in this one.
The Shining does bring up something I want to mention. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the air on this, but you know how sometimes we think computers are probably watching our every move. I was just clicking around online earlier in the discussion, and I found a list, 25 of the weirdest movies we've ever seen. Strangely enough, this was not on the list. But The Shining was. I don't know. I don't know that I would put that in the top. But there were some that we've covered on this channel. House and Mother both definitely deserve to be on that list.
Let's see. All right, Dave. Favorite scene, character, favorite movie about mazes?
See, I have 3 top maze involving mazes type movies in mind. Of course, there is the number one, which is Labyrinth. There's also a movie from the 1950s that I think a lot of people forget that's out there. It's a movie called The Maze, and it's got a maze that's in the backyard that is fucking phenomenal. And then, of course, I know a lot of you hate the Dungeons and Dragons movie, but I loved that thief maze that he had to go through in the end of that thing. I know it was a hated movie by you Dungeons and Dragons movie haters, but I actually liked that thief maze that he had to go through. I believe it was a maze. But as far as favorite scenes, I did like the garbage compactor moment with the cranes, the big head. I did like the chrysalis moment with the stop motion. I liked the puppet. I liked a lot of it. The puppet moment, but for some reason, I like that moment where they're like, did you really make a maze within a maze?
Mm-hmm.
Moment where they were walking through this like smaller maze moment, and
the one that doesn't even come up to their knees.
Yeah. I don't know why, but for some reason I'll remember that. But and my favorite character would probably be Anne, because she definitely, I think she had the most growth throughout the thing. I think she, like, her character kind of fell back in love with Dave, and the reason why. Although I still can't fully get behind Dave because you know, he really didn't care about the deaths of the people that, you know, have already died. You know, even though he mentioned some regret, he was trying to shift some of his responsibilities from that. And really didn't think of them afterwards either. So it's not. I get it. We're supposed to believe that you know, he came to terms with everything and all that jazz, but every human life means has to mean something. Even as annoying as these people were, and they were annoying.
They were. Bryn
And
was
they
too
deserve,
cool to die.
at least one or two of them deserve to die for their stupidity. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, yeah. That's where I
Dave,
stand.
I also want to mention, you should mention that miniature maze, they point out to him, you didn't even finish this one.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not Labyrinth as far as movies are concerned for me about mazes, I actually like the one in the collection, which is the sequel to the Collector, which is an interesting horror film, kind of like a grown-up horror version of Home Alone, if you think about it.
Right.
As far as favorite scenes, I like that initial, like when they're walking in the maze and they're more in a sense of, ooh, this is kind of cool. I didn't expect it to be like this.
Right.
And just because they were generally looking around, seeing the like little piano room, seeing this stuff. And it's more of like a, wow, he did this version. But as far as I'm trying to think, as far as like other things, as far as characters, you know what? Since everybody's going with Annie, I will pick Gordon. Because he was that friend that was kind of there most of the time. Yeah, he's kind of aloof, but he and Dave have been friends for so long that he kind of just expects stuff from Dave and Dave from him. And it's kind of cool there, and I'm kind of glad that he was one of the people that did survive. I mean, it was kind of fun how he is the one that distracted the Minotaur at the end of it. So, you know, in general, I thought it was that they were fun. So that's pretty much all of the Dave Made a Maze. I guess I will hand it back to you, Dave, to send us off.
Alrighty. Well, hopefully you, ladies and gentlemen that are out there, have enjoyed our discussion on Dave Made a Maze.
Were you amazed?
I was in my head singing amazed. So I'm just amazed that some of y'all stayed till the very end of the discussion. So, but on that note, why don't we go around, tell the audience exactly a little bit about ourselves and what we do. And let's start with you, Jake.
Well, I'm Kotobukijake, and I am dealing with a really nasty bit of allergies. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but but other than that, like I said, I keep pretty busy most of the time with my day job, but I try to make time to watch some movies, join these fine folks once a week. I've enjoyed looking at Strange May, even though I would agree that this stuff we have covered, there have been stranger and far less strange movies that are usually considered when one talks about weird movies. And this is one that is seldom considered, so I'm glad I got a chance to have a look at it. Of course, I am the occasional co-host of SeptumSin versus the World, or perhaps more accurately, the co-host when we make our occasional content. Although I know we're bringing to a close the first season of a project we've been working on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And we'll be doing an anime discussion this coming week, which, again, I'll let Brandon tee that up because I know it's his choice, but it should be a relatively strange one as well. So should be good times. And, well, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm David's fiance, and I go on this channel and another and talk about movies. This one we usually have a theme every month. The other one's a little bit more of a free for all. The other channel, but either way, it makes things interesting because I probably never would have watched this movie if it wasn't for going on here. But I'm glad I did, and this is one of the ones that I am glad I watched. Not all of them are, but anyways, it still makes it fun. And when I'm not going on with the movies, right now it's summer, and I'm out enjoying my 1972 Grand Prix.
Alrighty. Heading over to Brandon here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm SeptumSin, a SeptumSin versus the world. We like movies on our channel, and we talk about physical media and the love of physical media. We've been kind of busy over the last, 6 months or so, with many different projects, to the point where we haven't really been able to do a lot of our traditional content just because it's been, well, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. But one thing we did finish filming last week, the last episode of season 1 of Tabletop Horror. We're going to film a bonus episode, and I'm going to be trying to edit those last 2, which I was hoping I would this weekend, but just didn't have time this weekend. And this Wednesday, I guess we'll be doing we're going to try and watch Robot Carnival for the anime discussion, but I will get those last 2 episodes edited. And then once they are, we're going to have a physical release for season 1, followed by a once a week drop of the episodes of Tabletop Horror. So eventually, once the Blu-ray's up, you'll have a choice of getting it all at once plus the bonus episode, or you can see it on YouTube as time goes on. We put some decent work into this, and I think it's going to be a fun thing. Of course, like I say, Anime Anticlimax comes out this Wednesday night, so you guys get to hear about us talk about stuff like that. Of course, normally this would be when I'd talk about what we cover next month, but that's going to be a birthday month that both me and Dave share. And since we're going to be heading the month out with Dave, then me, then Dave, then me, I think it's only fitting that Dave go over that, since he's going to be leading us off with our birthday month in June.
Alrighty. And my name is David Struggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us as we come out of this maze. Surviving like the rest of the survivors. Hopefully that Minotaur isn't on our trail. But I'm actually looking forward to possibly once I talk with my distributor here, releasing the first act of Tales of the Forgotten, so that we can maybe get some copies out there.
We just got to get all the copies out to all the backers first, I guess.
Well, I've been trying to. It's just week by week, whittling them down to the bare nitty gritty. I figure everyone, all the directors that are involved with the second or third acts, I'll distribute them once I get their stuff onto something too. So that's how I'm kind of planning on doing it that way. But I also go on a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we discuss films every Sunday. And I believe we'll be going on about Pirates of the Caribbean 2 this next. I believe it's Deadman's Chest, if I remember correctly. So keep a lookout for that. We've already covered the first one on that channel, so it'll be good to return to the franchise and get something out there discussed on it. So, and I do some pickup videos, which I actually still have 3 coming out this week. Got to put together a video game pickup video yet, and then I should almost be done with my pickups over the last few months. So that's kind of exciting, having some new videos out there to show people what I've collected. And so that's pretty much what's going on. And I know Brandon and I are going to get back to the editing room eventually once we set up a good couple of Mondays here. So I know we've got like 45 minutes done of at least the second act. We just have to continue and figure out the length of this sucker and see whether we can splice it into a third or not. So that being said, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion, what you thought of the movie. If you haven't gone out and seen it, see it. I know there are Blu-ray copies of it, as well as an Arrow copy out there from the UK. So that being said, we'll see you next week. And new month, new theme. Well, kind of, sort of, birthday month. And okay, so I believe this is kind of the lineup. If I get it wrong, Brandon, you can let me know, at least on your end. I believe that that I want to talk about Schlockhaus Boom, otherwise known as Slaughterhouse 5, from 1972. That'll be next week. And then I believe the next one is Pump Up the Volume.
That'll be the last one.
Okay, that'll be the last one. Okay, so I guess we'll be talking about Talk Radio, which I have never seen, but I think it involves an actor who now plays in the Interview with the Vampire series, if I remember correctly. He's older there, but never seen it. Looking forward to checking it out. Then, of course, I want us to check out a movie that's based on a teen scary novel from Lois Duncan that was put into a movie with Uma Thurman in Down a Dark Hall, I believe that's what it's called. Yes, from 2018. I watched it once, so I'm looking forward to checking it out again, and so on and so forth. So I thought it had some creepy vibes, and wouldn't mind watching it again. And then of course there's Pump Up the Volume, with Christian Slater. So should be an interesting month, and we'll see you back here next week, same time, same chat channel. Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night.